The air smelled like hot metal and alien food on Nexus Station. Tai-1 Kim wiped sweat from his forehead as he tightened the last bolt on the Velderi warship's engine. The ship had come in with a broken cooling system. Without his quick fix, the whole engine would have melted. Done. He called to his friend Hai-Jin Park, who was checking the ship's computer. "The temperature is normal now," she said with a smile. "You saved this ship, Tai-1." Tai-1 put his tools away in his worn leather bag. He had worked on ships for 15 years. Humans were known across the galaxy for fixing things in new ways. Other aliens followed rulebooks. Humans found solutions. "Captain will be happy," said Tai-1. "This ship can fly again tomorrow." The repair shop door slid open with a hiss. 6 tall Velderi officers walked in. Their gray skin and 4 eyes made them look angry even when they weren't. And right now, they were definitely angry. "Human Tai-1 Kim," said the leader, holding up a tablet. "You are under arrest for breaking Protocol 772B. Hai-Jin stepped forward. "What are you talking about? He just saved your ship." The Velderi officer's top eyes blinked slowly. "He used non-standard parts and made unauthorized changes to a military vessel. This breaks coalition law." Tai-1 stood up straight. "The cooling system was going to fail. I had to use what I had." "The manual says to replace with exact parts only," said the officer. "You added a bypass circuit. This is forbidden." 2 officers grabbed Tai-1's arms. His tool bag fell to the floor with a clang. "This is crazy," Hai-Jin shouted. "Without his fix, your ship would be space junk right now." The Velderi didn't listen. They put metal cuffs on Tai-1's wrists. The cuffs were too tight. "Call Ambassador Jinho," Tai-1 said to Hai-Jin as they pulled him toward the door. "Tell him what happened." Hai-Jin picked up his tool bag. "I will get you out, Tai-1. I promise." Other mechanics in the shop stopped working to watch. Humans and aliens alike looked shocked. Everyone knew Tai-1 was the best mechanic on the station. The Velderi took Tai-1 through the busy market level of Nexus Station. Aliens of 20 different species moved out of the way. Some pointed and whispered. Being arrested was shameful, and Tai-1 felt his face grow hot with anger and embarrassment. At the security office, they took his ID chip and scanned his fingerprints. "Human Tai-1 Kim, you modified the cooling system of warship Veld 459 using non-regulation parts and techniques," said the officer. "This breaks Protocol 772B, Section 12. You will be held until trial." Tai-1 tried to stay calm. The ship was going to overheat in 2 hours. People would have died. "The proper procedure is to order correct parts and wait," said the officer. "If the ship failed, that would be unfortunate, but according to protocol." They took him to a small cell with a hard bed and a toilet in the corner. The door closed with a final sounding click. Meanwhile, Hai-Jin ran through the station's curved hallways to the diplomatic section. Her heart was pounding. This wasn't the first time the Velderi had caused trouble for human mechanics, but arresting Tai-1 was going too far. The door to the human embassy opened, and Hai-Jin rushed inside. "I need to see Ambassador Jinho right away," she told the secretary. The Velderi arrested Tai-1 for fixing their ship. The secretary's eyes widened. "Wait here." 3 minutes later, Ambassador Jinho Kang walked in. He was a short man with gray hair and tired eyes. "Tell me everything," he said. Hai-Jin explained about the emergency repair and the arrest. Jinho's face grew darker as she spoke. "This is the 5th human mechanic they've harassed this month," he said. "But the first arrest." "What can we do?" asked Hai-Jin. Jinho straightened his uniform jacket. "I'll call an emergency meeting with the station council. The Velderi have gone too far." As Jinho walked away, Hai-Jin looked down at Tai-1's tool bag in her hands. "They don't understand what they've done," she whispered. "Humans don't react well when you take their people." Across the station, in cells made of cold metal, Taiwan sat on his hard bed and waited. The Veldari thought they were teaching humans a lesson about following rules. Instead, they were about to learn why taking human mechanics was a terrible mistake. News of Taiwan's arrest spread fast. By morning, every human on Nexus Station had heard the story. The repair bay where he worked was unusually quiet. Junba slammed his wrench down on his workbench. This is wrong. Taiwan saved their ship. Su Min Choi, the oldest human mechanic on the station, nodded. The Veldari care more about their rules than their lives. Hai-Jin walked in, her eyes red from lack of sleep. Ambassador Jinho tried to see Taiwan. They wouldn't let him in. That's against station law, said Su-min. Prisoners get to see their representatives. The Veldari don't care, said Hai-Jin. They say it's a military matter now. Jun stood up. He was tall and strong from years of lifting heavy engine parts. Then we make them care. We stop working. Word spread through chat messages and quick talks in hallways. By noon, not a single human mechanic was working. Tools sat untouched. Broken ships waited with no one to fix them. What's happening? Asked a four-armed alien captain when he brought his ship in for repairs. Why is no one working? We're on strike, said Jun, until Taiwan is free. The captain's eyes widened. But my ship needs fixing now. Then talk to the Veldari, said Su-min. Tell them to free our friend. Across the station, Du Hyun-Lee was working in his small office. He was not a mechanic, but an engineer who kept track of all repair work. On his screen were records of every time human mechanics had been written up for non-standard repairs. 300 cases in the last year, he muttered. But not one failed repair. His computer beeped. A new message appeared. URGNT. All Veldari ships being impounded for safety inspection. Do-hyun ran to the main docking bay. 3 Veldari warships were being locked down with large metal clamps. A Veldari officer was shouting at a station security guard. You can't do this. We have a patrol to run. Orders from station command, said the guard. All ships repaired by humans need checking for dangerous deviations from standard procedure. The Veldari's 4 eyes blinked rapidly in anger. This is because of that human mechanic, isn't it? I don't know, sir, said the guard. I just follow orders. Meanwhile, Ambassador Jinho was in his 5th meeting of the day. Across from him sat the Veldari ambassador, a thin gray alien named Veltoric. Your mechanics break our laws, said Veltoric. The rules exist for safety. Jinho pushed a tablet across the table. Here are 50 cases where human repairs saved ships and lives. In not one case did a human repair cause a failure. That is not the point, said Veltoric. Rules must be followed. Release Taiwan Kim now, said Jinho, or this gets worse. Are you threatening me, Ambassador? Veltoric's voice was cold. I'm warning you, said Jinho. Humans take care of their own. Back in the repair bay, Hai-Jin's computer beeped. A message appeared from an unknown sender. Check incoming ships. Help is coming. She opened the station traffic log. Her eyes widened. 20 human ships had changed course toward Nexus Station. These weren't small personal ships. They were large transport vessels, mining ships, and even 2 old military cruisers. They're coming, she whispered. Who's coming? Asked Jun, looking over her shoulder. Everyone, said Hai-Jin with a small smile. Every human ship in the sector. In his cell, Taiwan sat on the floor fixing the air filter. It had been making a rattling noise that bothered him. He had no tools, but he used a small piece of metal from his boot to tighten a loose screw. A guard walked by and stopped. What are you doing, human? Fixing your filter, said Taiwan. It was going to fail soon. The guard stared at him. How are you doing that without tools? Taiwan shrugged. I'm a human mechanic. We fix things. The guard watched him work for a moment. The other mechanics stopped working. No one will fix our ships. Not until I'm free, said Taiwan calmly. The guard shifted uncomfortably. One mechanic can't be that important. Taiwan finished with the filter. The rattling stopped, and clean air flowed into the cell. You should tell your leaders, said Taiwan, that they've made a big mistake. Humans stick together, and we're very good at fixing things, and breaking them too when we need to. The guard hurried away. Taiwan smiled as he heard alarms begin to sound throughout the station. 3 days after Taiwan's arrest, a large silver ship docked at Nexus Station. It had the symbols of the Galactic Coalition on its sides. The ship was bigger than most and gleamed in the station's lights. Jai-seok Yang stepped off the ship wearing the blue uniform of a coalition diplomat. He had been sent from Earth to fix this growing problem. The station was in chaos. No human would fix any ship, and alien mechanics couldn't handle the backlog of repairs. Ambassador Jinho, said Jai-seok, shaking hands with the tired-looking man who met him at the dock. Earth sent me to help. Good, said Jinho. The Veldari won't listen to me. Maybe they'll listen to the coalition. They walked through the station. Jai-seok saw angry aliens arguing with station staff. He saw ships tied down with no one to fix them. He also saw small groups of humans watching everything with crossed arms. How many human mechanics are on this station? Asked Jai-seok. 212, said Jinho. And all of them stopped working 3 days ago. In the main meeting room, representatives from 12 alien species waited. The Veldari ambassador, Veltoric, sat stiffly in his chair. Next to him was a large red alien from the Ravak species. The Ravaks were warriors who valued strength and skill. This meeting of the Coalition Council will now begin, said the station director, a tall blue alien. We are here to discuss the arrest of human mechanic Ta-Won Kim and the resulting work stoppage. The Ravak's representative stood up. He was 2 meters tall with tough red skin. My ships need repairs. 3 battle cruisers sit broken because no human will fix them. Release this mechanic now. Veltoric's 4 eyes blinked slowly. The human broke our laws. He must be punished. Jai-seok stepped forward. I have reviewed the case. Ta-Won Kim saved your ship and the lives of its crew. He should be rewarded, not jailed. Rules are rules, said Veltoric. Without rules, there is chaos. The Ravaks laughed, a booming sound. Without human mechanics, there is chaos. Look around you. Other representatives nodded. One small green alien spoke up. Across coalition space, humans are known for fixing the unfixable. My people hire human mechanics at 3 times the normal pay because they find solutions no one else can. While the meeting continued, something interesting was happening in the detention center. Taiwan was not alone anymore. 3 more human mechanics had been arrested for unauthorized repairs. They sat together in a larger cell, talking quietly. They put me here for using a power coupling from a mining ship to fix a Veldari cruiser, said one mechanic. Their part wouldn't arrive for 2 weeks. I got arrested for making a cooling system out of food processors, said another. The ship's life support was failing. What was I supposed to do? Let them die. Taiwan nodded. The Veldari don't understand what we do. They think we break rules for fun. They don't see that we solve problems. A guard walked by and stopped to listen. The air in here is bad, said Taiwan to the guard. The recycling system is working at 60%. The guard looked surprised. How do you know that? I can hear it, said Taiwan. The fans are struggling. If you let us have some basic tools, we could fix it. The guard looked around nervously. That's against the rules. Of course it is, said Taiwan with a smile. But do you want to breathe bad air for your whole shift? 20 minutes later, the guard returned with a small box of tools. Fix it. But if anyone asks, I knew nothing about this. The human mechanics got to work. They didn't just fix the air system. They improved it. They fixed the lights that flickered. They made the water run cleaner. They did all this quietly, without telling the guards everything they were doing. Back in the council meeting, tempers were getting hot. Earth has sent a message, said Gysiok. If the mechanics are not released in 72 hours, all human mechanics will be withdrawn from Coalition space. The room erupted in shouts. Some species supported the Veldari's strict rules. Others, like the Ravaks, demanded the humans be freed immediately. "You don't understand what you've done," the Ravaks said to Veltoric. "Humans are the best mechanics in the galaxy. You jailed their people. Are you insane?" Veltoric's skin turned a paler gray. For the first time, he looked worried. Ambassador Jinho stood before the Galactic Coalition Council. He wore his best uniform with Earth's flag on the sleeve. His face was serious as he looked at each alien representative. "Earth has made its decision," he said in a clear, strong voice. "All human mechanics will leave Coalition space in 72 hours if our people are not freed." The room filled with angry shouts. A tall blue alien stood up. "You can't do this. Half the ships in my fleet need human repairs." "This is blackmail," said Veltoric, the Veldari ambassador. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly in anger. Jinho remained calm. "This is a consequence. You took our people. We take our skills." Outside the meeting room, Hai-Jin and Du-hyun waited nervously. Du-hyun's tablet showed messages coming in from across the galaxy. "Look at this," he said, showing Hai-Jin the screen. "The Centauri mining station reports critical system failures. The Proxima medical ship has life support issues. The Arcturus defense platform is running at half power." Hai-Jin nodded. All places where human mechanics were just pulled out. "This is only the beginning," said Du-hyun. "If all humans stop working." He didn't finish his sentence. He didn't need to. Meanwhile, deep in the engineering levels of Nexus Station, Hai-Jin had made an interesting discovery. She had been looking through old repair logs when she found something strange. "The Veldari ships," she whispered to herself. "They're all modified." She downloaded the files to her tablet and ran to find Gysiok. He was coming out of the council meeting, looking tired. "Representative Gysiok," she called. "I found something important." She showed him the files. "Look at these repair logs. The Veldari ships have human modifications. They say they'd follow all rules, but their own ships break those rules." Gysiok's eyes widened as he scrolled through the files. "They've been using our techniques while punishing our mechanics." Back in the detention center, Ta-1 and the other human mechanics had been busy. They had fixed not just the air system, but also the water recycler, the heating, and the security cameras. The guards pretended not to notice. The air was cleaner now, and everything worked better. "Why are you helping them?" asked a new mechanic who had just been brought in. "They arrested us." Tai-1 smiled as he adjusted a pipe. "We're not helping them. We're showing them." "Showing them what?" "That they need us," said Tai-1. "That rules alone don't keep ships flying and stations working. They need human creativity." As the 72-hour deadline came closer, tension grew across Nexus Station. Ships from all over the galaxy had arrived. The docking bays were full of vessels waiting for repairs that weren't coming. Gysiok met with Jinho and showed him Hai-Jin's discovery. "This is perfect," said Jinho. "Now we have proof of their hypocrisy." "But will it be enough?" asked Gysiok. "The Veldari are stubborn." Jinho looked out the window at the crowded docking bays. "I think we need to show them what happens when humans really stop working." He sent a message to Earth. Hours later, the response came back. One word: approved. Jinho called Hai-Jin. "Contact engineer Sang Woo-Yoon. It's time for the demonstration." Across the galaxy, human mechanics received a simple message: 1 hour maintenance break. Tomorrow, 1400 hours. Station time. In his office, Veltoric was confident. "They're bluffing," he told his assistants. "Humans won't leave Coalition space. They need us as much as we need them." As he spoke, 3 Veldari cruisers on patrol near a distant star suddenly lost power. Their engines died. Their life support systems began to fail. and there wasn't a human mechanic within 50 light-years to fix them. The first distress call reached Nexus Station just before the 72-hour deadline expired. The message was simple and frightening. Engines down. Systems failing. Need immediate assistance. And it was just the beginning. At exactly 1400 hours station time, every human mechanic in Coalition space put down their tools. In shipyards, on space stations, on planets, and on vessels, they all stopped working at the same moment. They simply stepped back, crossed their arms, and waited. On Nexus Station, Sang Woo-Yum stood in the main repair bay watching the time. He was an older man with gray hair and steady hands. For 30 years, he had fixed ships across the galaxy. "It's time," he said to the other mechanics. 1 hour. No work. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, small problems began to appear. On level 3, the lights flickered. On level 7, the air got warmer as cooling systems struggled. In docking bay 12, a cargo loader stopped moving mid-lift. These were small problems, but without immediate fixes, small problems became big ones. Jae-seok watched from the control room as warning lights began to flash on the main screen. More and more yellow dots appeared, then orange, then red. "What's happening?" asked a station operator, pressing buttons frantically. "Maintenance," said Jae-seok calmly, or rather, lack of maintenance. Across the galaxy, the same scene played out. On the Centauri mining station, ore processors shut down. On military ships, weapon systems went offline. On the Proxima hospital ship, backup life support failed. No lives were in danger. The humans had planned carefully. But the message was clear. Without constant human maintenance, everything began to fall apart. In the council room, aliens from a dozen species watched in horror as reports flooded in. "My ship just lost artificial gravity," shouted one captain. "The food production systems on Colony 7 are shutting down," yelled another. Veltoric's gray skin had turned almost white. 3 Velderi cruisers were now floating helplessly in deep space, sending desperate messages for help. "This is an attack," he said, his voice shaking. The Revax representative laughed his booming laugh. "No, this is a lesson. You took their mechanics. Now you see what happens without them." In the detention center, Taiwan and the other imprisoned mechanics sat quietly. They had fixed so many things that their cell block now worked better than the rest of the station. The guards were confused. They knew they should be angry, but they enjoyed the clean air and hot showers. One guard approached the cell. "The station is having problems. Things are breaking everywhere." Taiwan nodded. 1 hour maintenance break. It will be over soon." "Can't you fix things?" asked the guard. "Not from in here," said Taiwan. "And not while our people are treated like criminals for doing our jobs." Meanwhile, Hai-Jin and Do-hyun were in the council meeting room with Ambassador Jin-ho and Representative Jae-seok. On a large screen, they showed the evidence they had found. "These are the official specifications for Velderi warships," said Hai-Jin, pointing to diagrams. "And these are the actual systems in those ships." The differences were clear. The Velderi ships had human modifications, the same kind of modifications that To-1 had been arrested for. "You arrest us for the same techniques you use yourselves," said Jin-ho, looking at Veltoric. "You know our methods work better. You just don't want to admit it." Veltoric's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. For once, he had no answer. The Revax representative stood up. "Enough of this. Free the human mechanics now." Other representatives joined in, shouting their agreement. The council room was in chaos. Exactly 1 hour after they had stopped, human mechanics across the galaxy picked up their tools and went back to work. Systems began to come back online. Lights stopped flickering. Air systems returned to normal. But the message had been sent. For 1 hour, the galaxy had seen what happened without human innovation and problem-solving. In the council room, the station director called for order. We will vote now on the release of the human mechanics. The vote was quick. Only the Veldari voted to keep the mechanics imprisoned. The council has decided, said the director. The human mechanics will be released immediately. Veltoric stood up. This is not over. The rules exist for a reason. Without proper procedures, safety cannot be guaranteed. Jinho looked him in the eyes. Maybe it's time for new rules. Ji-1 Han had spent 20 years as a military engineer before coming to Nexus Station. He had fixed starship engines during battles. He had built shelters from wreckage. He knew how to work under pressure. Now, he stood in a small room with 5 other mechanics, looking at the plans of the Veldari Detention Center. The council voted to free our people, said Hai-Jin. But the Veldari are stalling. They say they need to process the release properly. Jai-1 nodded. They're buying time. Maybe hoping to move the prisoners to a Veldari ship. We can't let that happen, said Jun. We need to get them out now. Jai-1 pointed to the station plans. I have a way, but we won't use guns or force. We'll use what we're good at. Engineering, said Su-min with a smile. Jai-1 nodded. Exactly. An hour later, Jai-1 walked into the main control room of Nexus Station. He wore a maintenance uniform and carried a toolbox. Scheduled check of emergency systems, he said to the operator. The alien nodded, barely looking up. Jai-1 opened a panel under the main console and began working. He didn't sabotage anything. He just made a few small changes to how the systems talk to each other. Across the station, other mechanics were doing similar work. Small changes, tiny adjustments. Nothing broke, but things began to work differently. In the detention center, the guards noticed it first. The lights dimmed for 3 seconds, then came back on. The security doors all showed green, unlocked lights, then normal again. System check, said a guard. Nothing to worry about. Then the air system changed. The usual hum of fans became quieter. The air became fresher, like after a rainstorm. That's nice, said one guard, taking a deep breath. The security cameras switched to a test pattern, then back to normal views. But now, they showed images from 10 minutes earlier, on a loop. The security drones, small floating machines that patrolled the halls, all returned to their charging stations at once. What's happening? Asked the chief guard. He tried to call the main security office, but his communicator only played soft music. In his cell, Tai-1 looked up as the door slid open silently. There was no one outside. The other cell doors were also open. The human mechanics looked at each other in surprise. Tai-1 stepped into the hallway. The security systems were all working, showing everything was normal. But the doors were open, the cameras were showing old footage, and the guards' communications weren't working. Someone's giving us a chance, he said to the others. Let's go. They walked calmly through the halls. When they passed guards, the lights would dim just enough to hide their faces. When they needed to pass security checkpoints, doors would open just before they got there. In the control room, alarms suddenly went off, then stopped. The screen showed warnings, then cleared. What's going on? Shouted the station director. I don't know, said an operator. The systems say everything is normal, but they're acting strange. Check the detention center, ordered the director. The screen showed the detention center peaceful and normal. The cameras were still showing the same loop from earlier. The guards were visible, walking their rounds. The cells looked closed and secure. But in reality, Tai-1 and the other mechanics were already halfway to the docking bay. They didn't run. They walked calmly, as if they were supposed to be there. Jai-1 met them at a service entrance. This way, he said. We have a ship waiting. What did you do? Asked Tai-1 in amazement. How did you get us out without fighting? Jai-1 smiled. We didn't break the system. We improved it. We just made it work for us instead of against us. The guards? Asked another mechanic. They're fine. Better than fine. Their systems now work better than before. The air is cleaner. The power is more stable. We fixed everything while breaking them out. As they walked onto the waiting ship, Taiwan looked back at the station. The Veldari still don't understand. We don't want to break rules just to break them. We want to make things better. The ship lifted off smoothly from the dock. By the time the Veldari realized the prisoners were gone, they were already heading to the human embassy section of the station. The greatest jailbreak in Coalition history had been completed without a single shot fired. Nothing was broken. In fact, everything worked better than before. And that, more than anything, showed the true power of human mechanics. The human embassy section of Nexus Station buzzed with activity. Taiwan and the other freed mechanics sat in a large meeting room. They wore clean clothes and ate real food for the first time in days. "The Veldari are furious," said Ambassador Jinho as he walked in. "They say we broke dozens of station rules with that jailbreak." Taiwan smiled. "We didn't break anything. We made things work better." "That's what I told them," said Jinho. "But now, they're demanding you all return to custody while we negotiate." "Not happening," said Jai Seok firmly. "Earth won't allow it." Outside the embassy, a crowd had gathered. Not just humans, but aliens from many species. They held signs that said, "Free the mechanics," and "Innovation is not a crime." The 1-hour demonstration had shown everyone how important human mechanics were. The station director called an emergency council meeting. The room was packed with representatives from all Coalition species. The mood was tense. "This situation cannot continue," said the director. "Half our systems are still not working properly. We need a solution now." Veltoric, the Veldari ambassador, stood up. "The humans must respect our rules. Without proper procedures, safety is at risk." Ambassador Jinho walked to the center of the room with Jai Seok. Taiwan came with them, standing tall despite his days in prison. "We are ready to negotiate," said Jinho, "but our people will remain free." "We propose a new protocol," said Jai Seok. "The Human Innovation Protocol. It would allow mechanics to use creative solutions in emergencies, with proper documentation afterward." Veltoric's 4 eyes blinked angrily. "Impossible. Our rules exist for a reason." "Your rules didn't save your ships," said Taiwan quietly. "Human mechanics did." The room fell silent. Even Veltoric had no quick response. The Revax representative stood up. "I support this new protocol. My ships need fixing, and humans fix them best." Other representatives began to agree. Species after species stood up and supported the humans. The Veldari were being outvoted. Veltoric saw he was losing. His gray skin turned darker with emotion. Finally, he said something unexpected. "You don't understand," he said, his voice different now. Softer. "We Veldari cannot do what humans do." Everyone looked at him in surprise. "Our minds don't work that way," continued Veltoric. "We cannot see past the rules. We cannot find new solutions. For thousands of years, we have built our society on following precise steps." The room was silent. This was the first time a Veldari had admitted weakness. "We arrested your mechanics because we fear becoming obsolete," said Veltoric. "What place is there for rule followers in a galaxy that rewards rule breakers?" Taiwan stepped forward. "We don't break rules for fun," he said. "We adapt when we must to save lives and ships. The rest of the time, we follow procedures too." Jinho nodded. "Perhaps this is an opportunity. Humans provide innovation. Veldari provides structure and safety protocols. Together, we can be better than either alone." Jai Seok pulled out a tablet and began typing. A joint committee, humans and Veldari working together to document innovations and create new official procedures. The best of both approaches. Veltoric considered this. His 4 eyes blinked slowly as he thought. Finally, he spoke. "A compromise might be possible," he said. "But how would it work? When a human mechanic makes an emergency modification, They document what they did and why, said Daisiak. The Joint Committee reviews it. If it's safe and effective, it becomes an approved procedure. And humans agree to follow normal procedures when there's no emergency, asked Veltoric. Taiwan nodded. That's fair. We don't change things just for fun. The tension in the room began to fade. Representatives from other species nodded in approval. This could work. We will need time to consider the details, said Veltoric. But in principle, the Veldari are willing to negotiate. Jinho smiled. And all charges against our mechanics will be dropped immediately. Veltoric hesitated, then nodded. Agreed. As the meeting ended, Taiwan looked at Veltoric with new understanding. The Veldari weren't evil or stupid. They were just different. They couldn't think like humans, just as humans struggled to be as precise and careful as Veldari. Maybe we can teach each other, he thought. They learn some creativity from us. We learn some discipline from them. For the first time since his arrest, Taiwan felt hopeful about the future. 1 week after the negotiations began, the new Emergency Innovation Protocol was ready. Human and Veldari legal experts had worked day and night to create rules that both species could accept. Taiwan sat in a large, bright room as representatives from 12 species signed the agreement. He wore a new uniform with a special patch that showed he was part of the new Joint Innovation Committee. I never thought I'd see this day, whispered Haijin, sitting next to him. Veldari and humans working together. The station director stood at a podium. Today marks a new chapter in coalition history, he said. For too long, we have seen the differences between our species as problems. Now we see them as strengths. Veltoric, the Veldari ambassador, approached the podium. His gray skin looked healthier, and his 4 eyes were calm. The Veldari have always valued order and safety, he said. These are good values. But we now understand that flexibility and creativity are also important, especially when lives are at risk. He turned and looked directly at Taiwan. On behalf of the Veldari government, I officially apologize for the arrest of mechanic Taiwan Kim and his colleagues. All charges are dropped. Their records are clean. The room filled with applause. Taiwan nodded his thanks. Ambassador Jinho spoke next. Humans value innovation and quick thinking. These are good values. But we now understand that documentation and consistent procedures increase safety for everyone. The new protocol was simple but powerful. First, human mechanics would follow standard procedures whenever possible. Second, in emergencies, they could use creative solutions to save lives and ships. Third, all innovations would be documented and reviewed by the Joint Committee. Fourth, successful innovations would become official procedures that all species could use. Taiwan had been named the human head of this committee. A Veldari engineer named Velmira would be his co-leader. After the ceremony, Veltoric approached Taiwan privately. There is one more thing, said the Veldari ambassador. My government has a request. Taiwan raised his eyebrows. What kind of request? Our flagship, the Veldari Prime, needs improvements, said Veltoric. We would be honored if you would lead the upgrade project. Taiwan was shocked. The Veldari Prime was the most important ship in the Veldari fleet. This was a huge sign of trust. I would be happy to help, he said, but I have one condition. Name it, said Veltoric. I want Veldari engineers to work with us, not just watching, but learning. And I want human mechanics to learn Veldari safety protocols. Veltoric's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. Then he nodded. Agreed. True cooperation, not just side-by-side working. As news of the agreement spread, ships across the station began working again. Human mechanics returned to their jobs. But now they carried tablets to document their innovations. Do-hyun's job changed from tracking violations to collecting new techniques for the official manual. We've already added 50 new procedures, he told Taiwan. And mechanics from other species are contributing their own ideas too. In the main repair bay, Haijin watched as Taiwan trained a group of young Veldari engineers. They looked confused as he showed them how to repurpose parts from one system to fix another. "But the manual doesn't say this is possible," said one Velderi student. "The manual doesn't know everything," said Taiwan patiently. "Sometimes you have to try new ways." The student's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. This was hard for Velderi to accept, but he picked up the tools and tried. On the other side of the bay, Jun and Sumin were learning Velderi safety protocols from Velmira. The detailed checklists seemed excessive to the humans, but they saw value in the careful approach. "Check 3 times, fix once," said Velmira. "This prevents many accidents." "And when there's no time to check 3 times?" asked Jun. "Then you use human methods," said Velmira. "That is why we learn from each other." Ambassador Jinho and Representative Gai Siok watched from a viewing platform. "Not bad for a diplomatic crisis that started with a jailed mechanic," said Gai Siok. Jinho smiled. "Sometimes it takes a crisis to create real change." Across the station, humans and Velderi were learning that their differences made them stronger together, not weaker apart. 6 months had passed since the crisis. Nexus Station was busier than ever. Ships from across the galaxy came not just for repairs, but for upgrades and innovations. Today was special. The station's largest docking bay had been cleared for the first Galactic Engineering Symposium. Engineers and mechanics from 27 species had gathered to share ideas. Taiwan stood in the center of the bay next to a half-built engine. Hundreds of beings watched as he and Haijin demonstrated a new cooling system they had developed with Velderi engineers. "This cooling method uses 30% less power," explained Taiwan. "It combines human innovation with Velderi safety features." A Velderi engineer named Velmira stepped forward. "We have tested this system in extreme conditions. It is both safe and efficient." The crowd murmured in approval. 6 months ago, no one would have believed that humans and Velderi could create something together. Across the bay, Ju-1 Han showed a group of young engineers how to repurpose common parts for emergency repairs. His audience included not just humans but Velderi, Revax, and a dozen other species. "Think of every part as having many uses, not just one," he said. "This food processor, in an emergency, its motor can power a small life support system." The young Velderi engineers still looked uncomfortable with this approach, but they took careful notes. When Jai-1 asked for a volunteer, one brave Velderi stepped forward. The crowd cheered. In another section, Sumin Choi and a team of Velderi safety experts presented a new checklist system that combined human speed with Velderi thoroughness. "The safety checks are simple enough to remember in an emergency," said Sumin, "but complete enough to prevent 95% of common mistakes." Ambassador Jinho watched from a viewing platform with Jai Siok and the station director. "Hard to believe this all started with an arrest," said Jai Siok. Jinho nodded. "Sometimes the worst beginnings lead to the best endings." The station director, a tall blue alien, looked satisfied. "My station has never run more efficiently. Human creativity combined with Velderi precision is powerful." The main event of the day was about to begin. The giant doors of the docking bay slid open slowly. Outside, a ship waited, but not just any ship. It was the Unity, the first vessel designed and built by the Joint Committee. Its sleek shape showed Velderi precision. Its unusual engine arrangement showed human creativity. Engineers from 12 species had contributed to its systems. The crowd fell silent as the Unity glided into the bay. It moved with a grace that seemed impossible for its size. Its engines hummed quietly, using a new design that Ta-1 had helped create. The ship settled onto the docking clamps with perfect precision. The crowd erupted in cheers. Tai-1 felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Vel Torik. "I once thought your kind were dangerous," said the Velderi ambassador. "Now I see you were the push our people needed." Tai-1 smiled. "And your people have taught us the value of careful planning and safety. We're better together." At the back of the crowd, Du-hyun stood with his tablet. The official technical manual that had once fit on a single device now required a full database. It grew every day as new innovations were added. The first edition of the Joint Innovation Manual is now complete, he announced. Every ship in the coalition will receive a copy. The manual contained thousands of approved procedures, from emergency repairs to complex upgrades. Each one was tested, safe, and effective. Many had started as human rule-breaking, but were now official. As the celebration continued, Hai-Jin found Tai-Wan staring at his old cell through a viewport. The detention center was now used for storage. "Thinking about old times?" she asked. Tai-Wan shook his head. "Thinking about how far we've come. From prisoner to committee chairman in 6 months." "You know," said Hai-Jin with a smile, "someone should thank the Veldari for arresting you. Without that, none of this would have happened." Tai-Wan laughed. "Maybe, but let's not suggest they try it again." As they walked back to the symposium, engineers of all species mingled together, sharing ideas and solving problems. Humans showed aliens how to think creatively. Aliens taught humans their specialized knowledge. The galaxy had changed. Species that once saw each other as strange and wrong now recognized different strengths. And it all began because someone asked the simple question: "You jailed human mechanics. Are you insane?"